Pressing on. All minor stress is going, gone. Pressing on. I'm pressing on.
Hello to subscribers and newcomers alike, I am the one and only Impulse Kid 86, and today I'm taking a look at Super Dragon Ball Z on the PlayStation 2. Coming from the folks at Crafts & Meister, headed by none other than Noritaka Funamizu, an ex-Capcom employee who previously worked on the Street Fighter games, Super Dragon Ball Z originally hit Japanese arcades towards the end of 2005, before making its way to the PS2 almost a year later. It's very different to the other Dragon Ball fighting games that have come and gone since the first Budokai game came out, but I'll get to that a little later on. Upon starting the game, you can choose one of up to 13 immediately playable characters, ranging from the anime's most recognisable faces, Goku and Vegeta, to comparably less important characters such as Chi-Chi, in the first of only 2 games to include her as a selectable fighter. Personally, although I don't know anyone who'd really want to use Chi-Chi in battle, I think her inclusion on the roster, quirky as it is also a welcome reminder that she could actually kick some ass before becoming an overbearing pain in the ass. Since this is a port of an arcade game, there unfortunately isn't too much to speak of, but that's not to say the game doesn't have any fat for people to chew on. The original arcade mode sees you making your way through 5 random battles before facing down the evil duo of Frieza and Cell, and there's also the standard training and versus options, the latter of which sadly doesn't allow for player versus CPU matches, as well as the Z Survivor mode. Much like the arcade mode, Z Survivor also pits you against a gauntlet of random opponents. Unlike the arcade mode, however, this is a real test of endurance, since you don't automatically regain a portion of health after you win each battle. Suffice to say, players will undoubtedly have a good challenge ahead of them if they ever get sick of the arcade mode. As the old saying goes, no good deed goes unrewarded, and at the end of each match, a roulette wheel will let you pick your favourite out of various prizes, such as increases in offense and defense, and even a Dragon Ball, which can be used in the Dragon Summoning mode to unlock extra characters and several other goodies.
秀夫戦乱そして願いを叶えたまえ
Since I'm on the subject of the extra characters, I must say I was disappointed to find that almost all of the unlockables are simply differently skinned versions of the same characters. Majin Vegeta, Demon King Piccolo from the original Dragon Ball, and a weapons-clad cyborg Frieza are just a few of the characters you can gain access to. It kinda reminds me of Dragon Ball GT Final Bout, although mercifully, this game isn't nearly as bad about recycling characters as that one was, since this one doesn't have 7 different goddamn versions of Goku taking up spots on the roster! Finally, the game features a customize mode, wherein you can take any of the available characters, provided you've already made a character card, and mix up your moveset by purchasing new abilities with the experience points earned during battle. Like any good fighting game, the control scheme is rather straightforward. The square and triangle buttons perform melee attacks, while the X button allows you to guard, and the circle button lets you jump when pressed once, and fly when pressed in mid-air. Meanwhile, R1 and R2 respectively perform light and heavy dash attacks, while L1 performs a simple dash, and L2 allows you to throw your enemy. Special attacks in this game are activated in similar fashion to the Street Fighter games. To fire off Goku's Kamehameha, just input the same classic fireball motion that you would when playing as Ryu or Ken in Street Fighter. Also, the Saiyan characters can power up to Super Saiyan form for a temporary strength boost, and if you really want to bring on the pain, you can perform a devastating Dragon Finish attack. graphics are very much what you'd expect from a recent Dragon Ball Z game, with all 3 dimensions of the character models once again rendered with cell shading. It's worth noting, however, that Super DBZ stands out from its beat-em-up brothers by taking its visual cues from the original manga rather than the anime, resulting in things like the backgrounds looking as if they've been painted, the main menu being decked out in some rather nifty-looking hand-drawn panels, comic book-style text effects popping up on the screen when an attack hits its mark, and slightly different colour schemes for the character models. So if you've ever played this game and found yourself staring in disbelief and wondering why Trunks' signature jacket is now blue rather than purple, well, you've learned something new today, haven't you? Another thing worth mentioning is the game's soundtrack. Although it does an exceptional job of capturing that classic arcade feel with the help of a trusty synthesizer, the NTSC version of the game unfortunately doesn't include the option to switch between vocal tracks, instead containing the voices of the cast of Funimation Entertainment's English dub of the anime. Similarly, as anyone watching this review has already heard, the PAL version of the game simply features the original Japanese voices, and I was honestly surprised by this, considering that, with a few exceptions such as the Supersonic Warriors games, the games haven't featured a solitary voice track for quite a few years now. Super Dragon Ball Z is a unique entity within the grand scheme of the recent Dragon Ball video game series. It doesn't have quite as much flash as the Budokai Tenkaichi games, nor does it contain the easy-to-access button combos of those games or the earlier Budokai trilogy. In fact, if you've ever played any of the 16-bit DBZ games that were released in Japan and other countries throughout the 1990s, whether you're using emulated ROMs or have some of the actual cartridges, like the Video Game Masters did in their double review for DBZ Hyperdimension and Super Gokuden, I would definitely consider this a throwback to those games. Unfortunately, I've heard a lot of negative comments regarding Super DBZ, many of them along the lines of, "It sucks because it's not a Tenkaichi game." Personally, I didn't find it to be quite as horrendous as what it got made out to be. However, as I said in the comments section of a previous DBZ game review, whether or not you'll enjoy Super DBZ all comes down to what you look for in these things. And if you're looking for a modern DBZ game that's a little more technical, for lack of a better term, than the likes of pressing either up and triangle or abusing the square and circle buttons to do special attacks, chances are this just might be for you.